to the Talk of Simsbury. My name is Dominique Avery. Today, the talk is about the upcoming Performing Arts Center Summer Music Series. Just about everyone in Simsbury knows about the Talcott Mountain Music Festival, which started in 1996, but some town residents are not all quite so familiar with the Summer Music Series, which also takes place on our Performing Arts Center stage. To talk about the pop concerts and how they differ from the symphony are my three guests, all members of the Performing Arts Center Board, President Dave Ryan, and Bob Hensley, and Ferg Jansen, who is, by the way, also a member of the SCTV Board, among others. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By the time this airs, the series will have already had its first concerts with the Avett Brothers, a great band, and the Summer Solstice Weekend, but there's plenty more to talk about coming up this summer. Dave, let's start out with the difference between the Talcott Mountain Music Festival and the summer series at the Performing Arts Center.
Well, the Talcott Mountain Music Festival was, of course, promoted by the HSO, and it's gone on for 20 years, as you know. The other weekends, people around town felt that we ought to have more use of the facility since it was here. And we have made some contacts with promoters, and Premier Concerts is putting on 4 concerts this summer, bringing fairly well-known outside talent to town. The concerts are partly the cost of the concerts are partly covered by sale of beer and wine. And so we have different rules for those concerts than we do for the Talcott Mountain Music Festival. No food or wine or beer may be brought into those concerts. And that
or
helps.
even water.
Or even water.
Promoters they don't let you come in. It's just like big time.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
It is big time.
It's the only way we can get.
No different than any other concert that you might go to, even at the Hartford Meadows. You can't take beer or wine into those facilities, and so for the private concerts outside of the Talcott Mountain Music Festival, all the beverages and all the food and so forth are provided inside, and that's by the direction of not only the promoter but the producer of the shows that come here too. It's part of their financial package.
So when you first started this, I remember there was quite a bit of confusion with people used to coming to the concerts with all their picnic stuff, but it's been going on now for a couple of years now. So you have signage out, or?
We've put lots of signs out. I think this last concert, we had no complaints that I'm aware of. The year before, it was a little more confusing, and we tried to put enough signs out to avoid that problem.
So people are no longer coming down with rolling their things and
we
having
used to
bring them
have
back.
a corral for when people would come in the gate. We had a corral for all of the coolers and picnic baskets and stuff, so people could kind of store them inside the gate. We don't have any. No one shows up that way now. And everybody, including the promoter, told us that where this has gone on in other venues, that it takes about a year or so for people to recognize that they either have to look on the website, on Facebook, or check with the facility to see whether you can bring food and drink in or whether this is a concert where it's closed off. And yet we want to make sure that the people know that the symphony concerts are just like they've always been. You can bring food and drink in, and it's a great evening, and but it's a different kind of show. So people now check pretty closely, I think.
But with the HSO ones, we also, starting last year, and we're going to do it again this year, we offer for those who are coming straight from work or don't want to prepare the thing, there will be food available, Bobby Kane and people like that, and we also have beer, a great selection of wines and some nice local micro brews, so at reasonable prices, so they can, if they don't want to. If they're under the gun, they can
just
get
come
it as well.
and buy it all there too.
Yeah.
We didn't used to do that, but now we do.
So how did the Avett Brothers and others, how did the first concert go?
It was great weather.
Awesome.
The music was fantastic. We had 3,500 people plus at the concert, so everybody seemed mellow and happy, and it was really a great night.
I would say the I'm not sure what the actual numbers are. I know that they pretty much sold out all of the reserve seating, and now for that concert and for the Slightly Stupid concert, that's a group, not
Not
a
us.
reflection of anybody here. So for the Slightly Stupid concert, we have a pit, which we haven't done that. This is kind of each year's we do something a little different. So this year there's a pit. And for those folks who have been to concerts in other venues, they know what a pit is. So the people stand, they pay more to be there, and they're up front in front of the stage. So all of the reserved seating for the Abbott Brothers was pretty much sold out.
Yeah.
The only seating that was available outside of that was on the lawn. And it was about halfway back, I think. So if I
Sounds
would
like
guess that there were, like 34,000, 4,500,
Close to
something like
4,000.
that.
Yeah.
And the
great.
interesting thing, I mean, the pit is one venue. What we had Sunday night is the normal one. And then the first thing we did this year was Party at the Pack with Prizer and O'Brien, who are a very popular local group.
Yeah.
And that was a lounge. It was set up with an entirely different thing with cabanas. Where
All
sponsors
inside the
had-
wall.
Yeah,
It was
I
just-
was away for that weekend, so I didn't come. I get to come. So it was inside the wall.
Yeah, all
I
inside
couldn't
the wall.
imagine what it was like.
Yeah, and people said, this night, are you ever going to do that again? And of course, Tom Vincent, it just depends on how many people and such,
Right.
but it's,
How did it do?
We had
It did
about
very well, I think.
We had 700 people,
yeah.
and it was a great night. Again, perfect weather, and the music was great. I mean, people
Yeah.
loved Prizer and O'Brien.
Prizer and O'Brien,
$10
the classic rock.
$10 admission, and when we charge people, we're a 501c3 and we lease the premises from the town, but the money, the promoter takes 30% plus of it, and then everything we have is rented. Portoilets, sound towers, the lights, tables, chairs, all that. That's why we need money to pay for all that. And of course, we're all volunteers, so it's not we don't get paid, but we need to pay the people who provide all the services.
So this venture is, it strikes me as a sort of unique venture, a town, a relationship between the town and the board and promoters and rentals. How did this all come about?
Well, the town had managed it through the PAC board, which both Bob and I had been involved with as chairs. But after they did a study, and the recommendation was that we get an outside company, a 501c3, to manage the facility, because promoters make decisions within days, and you can't wait for 2 board meetings and those sorts of things. And so what happened is we put together a 501c3, Bob and I and Greg Peets, who started it, and Jerry Toner was part of it. We recruited a board, and we went to the town and we said, let's work out a contract. The town owns the facility. It's a town property, and our job is to put on events there and also provide for the future growth of the facility. So we're looking at trying to put a roof on the covered seats inside the wall. And
So, like, the town owns the facility, and we actually, if you think of it as a lease arrangement, if you were leasing a building, we lease the facility from the town during our season. And so over the years, both Dave and I have chaired the facility when it was reported to the town. Now it reports to its own private board, but it gives us a lot of flexibility to try new things, and to the idea of the Party at the Pack and the way it's set up as a lounge is something we did fairly quickly. The opportunity to work with a private promoter like Premier Concerts and work with them on their contracts and so forth, we can move kind of quicker, faster, still deliberately and still with good due diligence, but it gives us the opportunity to do that and to raise money, and all donations to the PAC, to the Performing Arts Center, are all tax deductible now. So we have a great diverse board with a larger footprint. So not all of our board is just Simsbury residents. They come from Bloomfield. They come from Avon, Farmington, Granby. So we've tried to expand the footprint and expand the knowledge. You mentioned, I think it's kind of interesting because I always try to go around and talk to people during the concerts while we're working. You mentioned how most everybody in Simsbury knows about the PAC and knows what's down there. You would be shocked as I go around to make presentations about what's going on at the PAC, how many people in the next town over, Avon, where our office is, how many people have no idea what you're talking about. Like when you say, in fact, I was talking to one of our new employees and I was explaining to her that the Abbott brothers, she said, oh my gosh, where is it? And I said, and she lives in Glastonbury. So she was saying, where is it? And I said, at the Performing Arts Center down on Iron Horse in Simsbury. You know where that is, where the symphonies, she goes, I've never heard of it. And I gave tickets to some people that went to the Abbott Brothers, and they said, that's the most incredible thing. I've never been there. So one of the things we want to do is to blow out the footprint of it so that more people recognize where it is, what's going on, and appreciate it for what a great asset it is to the town.
Right. It is a terrific asset, and I can confirm that because I was at the State Tourism Conference about a month ago, and I was chatting with a marketing person from Boston, and I was telling him about our concert series, and he said, are you kidding me? That's closer to Boston than Berkshire's is, and I don't have to go there to go to a concert. I'm going to check this out. So I definitely think we need to reach out further.
Yeah. We are apparently the second largest concert venue in the state of Connecticut because we have the capacity of the fields to accommodate 10,000 people.
Right.
A few years ago when I was running the board, I had the board and it reported to the first selectman in town. One of the things we did in our business plan for that year was requested enough money to hire an outside consultant. And I really feel like that was a benchmarking time for the Performing Arts Center because when they came in and they spent the whole spring and summer and fall here interviewing people, having focus groups, they went to concerts, that group, and they're in the entertainment business from New York. They wrote up a very detailed document that's on our website, so a person could go look at it and read it. And there's a lot of great information in there, demographic studies, what other venues like this venue have done and how they've succeeded or failed or what's happened. And I think that was really really an eye-opener. It's where the whole idea of taking the thing private came from and trying to connect with one promoter instead of trying to book performances through a bunch of different people. And really a lot of that has paid big dividends to us as we've tried to take this to the next step. And we're struggling with trying to have a debrief meeting now because every single concert we learn something and we want it to make it better the next time. And there's, each of us have 4 or 5 things that we want to talk about, and we'll add 1 or 2 of those things to the next concert. And so it makes it kind of exciting. It's a great facility for people that want to. Ferg's going to talk about volunteering, but we need help. We love volunteer. It's a lot of volunteer time and effort, and there's a great opportunity to get involved in a kind of an interesting industry, kind of a crazy industry.
Well, I'm also a co-chairman of the tourism committee, and I know how valuable this is to the town. But you mentioned volunteers, Ferg. Here's your chance.
We always need volunteers, and this is this is the lineup for this year, and this is big time, I mean, and it's the real Beach Boys with Brian Wilson, and it's Willie Nelson was here last year, and he's coming back this year. So the venue, that's what you hear from the performers and through the promoter. They love the venue, and but we need people just to help set up, to put numbers on seats, to usher, to park cars. That's a very important thing. We have handicap parking, and we need people just to help set up, tear down. The work doesn't have to be during the concert; it can be before and after. And we have, for these big concerts, we have about 35 people doing food and beverage. I mean, and And it takes that many to serve the public, because our goal, like this Sunday night, we really, no one waited in line more than 5 minutes, and that's because we're staffed, and customers, the crowds Sunday, and I don't know if you gentlemen have heard this, but I was talking to the ID people. Everybody who comes who wants alcohol has to have their ID checked, and it's so driven by, we had New York, New Jersey,
Yeah.
the Abbott brothers drew from, it wasn't the guy from Glastonbury and Avon, they were here too, but we draw from all over,
Right.
and the people love the site.
Right.
There was a couple of guys from Pawtucket who said, we drove over here to see the Abbott brothers, but we're coming back to see other things. This
Yeah,
is really
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I personally can't wait for the roof over the front part of the stage, because I have a feeling that you can have a few more classical music concerts and attract a smaller crowd there.
Classical, and the groups that, they don't want to play in the rain or they want to make sure that they're going to have at least 2,800 no matter what, even if it pours rain, and it is important. And plus it'll eliminate, because of sound and lighting, a ton of our rental.
Right.
And of course, if the town with the community center, performing arts get together and we are able to build out stage 2 and 3, that'll just give us a much more better venue for the performers. It'll draw them more. Just keep feeding it. So
I think I think as we go along, it can be an economic engine to the town too. I mean, I would guess that if we had 4,500, 4,000 people there on Sunday night, those people, in many cases, stopped somewhere, did something afterwards until the traffic cleared. So it's a great way to kind of publicize the town, because a lot of people haven't been here. I spent some time with a couple that had some questions that drove here Sunday night from New Jersey, and they weren't kids. They were a mature couple, and they just liked the Abbott brothers. They had looked up to see where they were playing because they knew they were going on tour, and they were wondering if they were going to be in New Jersey, and they thought it was in Simsbury. So they drove from New Jersey to Simsbury to see the Abbott brothers, because that was the closest concert in the tour. But I think it's a great PR thing for the town too.
No, it absolutely is. It's
rooms for
tremendous.
Simsbury, and a lot of these people,
Right.
they book
One
room
other
after
point on
room.
volunteers, Ferg. When we have these stadium seating concerts, which get 2,700 people, all those chairs have to be set out and numbered the day before.
Yeah.
So there's an enormous opportunity to put in a few hours helping number chairs.
Now, for volunteers, they get the T-shirt and they get a free ticket to the concert? Or?
Well, they get a volunteer's pass.
Yeah.
It's a pass.
It's a pass, it's
lanyard
not a
with
ticket.
Staff
Lanyard.
on it.
When the promoters do these concerts, the tickets are sold through Ticketmaster, and every ticket is accounted for.
So this is a pass.
So it's a
so
pass.
yeah.
They can
For
get in.
that concert or
For that
for all
concert.
the concerts?
For that concert.
For that concert.
And they
So
can,
the security knows when they see it that that's somebody who's volunteered time for the.
and they get to park in the Simscroft Echo lot, so it's real close. And
Okay, so the Simscroft Echo lot is on the left hand facing the bandits
north
on
end
the
of the
north
field.
end, right?
field.
North
yeah.
end of the field.
And
Easy.
on the right side is also preferred parking. Is that for, who's that for?
People can purchase it, so you can buy reserved parking. It's either, some sponsors, it comes with their package, but people can buy for, like all the Talking Mountain, they can buy reserved parking
Parking, yeah.
for $10. It's cheap, and they park right behind the facility, which is
or in behind Vincent there,
right.
walk right across the street.
Right across from Vincent Funeral Home. There's also reserved.
Yeah,
parking.
last year I was invited to sit at someone's table and we drove up and parked there and I thought, oh my God, this is heaven.
Yeah,
Right.
it's very handy.
It's only
cheaper than
$10.
Fenway.
Well, handicap is actually free.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'm not handicapped.
No, but if you ride with somebody who's handicapped,
But it is something that people, and for a long time people didn't know about it, but it was kind of like the best kept secret in the world, because for $10 you can walk
there.
100 feet
Right,
instead
no.
of like
Yeah.
300 yards or
Right.
500 yards.
Well, are you still running, is the bus still running from Henry
Yes.
James? Yeah, that's a pretty
Yes.
good,
It goes to Henry James? Is that
Henry
where the old
James, there's a
plan?
bus that shuttles from
Yeah.
Henry James, so
Yeah.
you can park there free. But you can also park in the town parking lot. There's lots of parking up
St.
and down Harbor
Mary's.
Street.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the big
all over.
state ones, tons of them there.
You'll see signs along the street for lots that are open.
And you'll also see signs where they don't want you to park. Like, Brian at Fitzgerald's would
Right.
probably, he doesn't want people to take customers parking, so he'd have signs up to say no parking
Right.
for this event.
Well,
Yes.
that's fair. So tell me a little bit about the lineup that's still to come. Slightly Stupid and Willie Nelson.
Yeah. Beach Boys.
Beach Boys.
Beach Boys.
in August,
And
yeah.
then Septemberfest, which is, we
So
also...
I want to hear about Septemberfest too, but can any of you tell me a little bit about Slightly Stupid and that concert?
They're
Willie
a
Nelson,
lot younger
everything?
than we are.
Oh, okay.
That'll be a different.
Different
group.
group.
And instead of buying seats, like you go on Ticketmaster and buy a seat number, row 12, that kind of thing. This is all standing inside the wall. So there'll be there's a pit. They call it a pit
Right.
because they're like special fan club people. So they're up front, and then beyond the pit is standing inside the wall, because the band is one where everybody's standing anyway. In fact, Sunday night for the Abbott Brothers,
A lot of people
virtually everybody inside the wall was standing and clapping and dancing anyway.
Yes.
But so that concert's that way, and it's a younger kind of rock
Reggae. A lot of reggae stuff.
reggae band, different.
Yeah. You can go on the web and listen to it, which I did.
Willie Nelson is, this year, he's bringing a group called Old Crow Medicine Show, which my kids are all in their 30s and live in West Hartford, and they booked that. They're coming. Willie's okay, but they want to. This apparently Old Crow is supposed to be great, so it's
Grammy winning.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's also touch on Septemberfest, because that's something that has moved over there now. And are there going to be changes this year? Is it going to look different? What can you tell me about Septemberfest? When is it?
We had, it's the 11th, 12th, and 13th September, and we had, after last year during our post-mortem, we have, it's a couple. We have food vendors, we have soda and water, beer and wine, and then we have all the businesses, and then the bouncies, all that kind of stuff. And the goal is to try and have everybody busy. This year there will be no home improvement show. It's just all Septemberfest. Friday night from 5 on, Saturday from 11 to 10, and then Sunday from 11 to 4. And we're going to integrate it more, so it's like when you go to somebody's house to a party, everybody's in the kitchen, and that's
Right.
where the party is, and we're going to try and work more to create that so no one is left out, and you're moving around. And we'll probably have someone last year came up to me and said, I've been watching my kid on the bouncies for the last hour, but I can't walk 400 yards for a glass of beer
Right, it was all so
or a
spread
hot
out,
dog.
right.
So our goal is to try. One of our restrictions there, of course, is power. We have to get power to the vendors, but we're working on that. And our long-term goal would be to have some more permanent things on the side, like beautiful tobacco barns with power in them, so that we can store our tables and chairs. And these are all long-range goals.
This would be a good time for merchants, vendors, retailers, construction, any people that have companies that serve the public, to really touch base with Tom Vincent to see what's available in terms of space. And, like any event, we're always looking for opportunities to add new participants in those kinds of programs. But right now would be the time to talk to Tom, because you do have some lead time. I mean, I wouldn't say you have a ton of lead time, but you have some lead time, so you could discuss where you might be, how you might set it up, and begin to think about it, as opposed to trying to think about it 2 weeks before the event and make a big decision.
Yeah.
And that's hard, because this does fill up.
And the phone number is 860-651-4052.
And that's for
The office.
The office.
If you want to get a hold of Tom Vincent, find out more about Septemberfest availability for space rentals and so on.
Okay, so Tom Vincent, is he the only employee, or do you have others?
Tom Vincent is a contractor. Vincent Promotions is his company. We have no employees. We're a
Okay.
volunteer organization with no employees. And Tom has a couple of people that work for him,
Yeah.
helping him be the facility manager.
He has staff, but
Yeah.
our contract is with his company.
Okay, so before somebody touched on the possibility of a community center, senior center being located on your property. How you as a board, how do you feel about that? Are you encouraging that? Do you think it's a good idea? How would that help?
One thing that's important, it's not our property, it's the town's
Right,
property.
sorry, right.
And all the capital is the town's
Right.
assets. The board has voted very strongly to support adding the senior center somewhere, somehow. And we'd love to share space with them to help have better economies for the town. But we think it's better to have more activity at that site to give it a vibrance. And so that's our attitude toward it. And we want to work with the town.
Yeah.
There's a meeting this evening to interview
This
the
will-
architect.
Right, this will air
who's
after that. Right.
Designing, is looking at the design of the
What
facility.
the needs of the
the
building.
needs
So you think it will add to the property, that it will?
yeah.
Definitely, and it'll be.
Bring
And it will
people
be, can you use it as a green room or something? Is
Exactly.
that what the idea is?
We think the logistics can be worked out so that everybody wins out of it. Our season is pretty defined, April to October, so, and we feel like with some joint work that we can certainly work out the logistics and the scheduling so that everybody wins from it. And when we have an event, some of the things that Ferg mentioned about that we have to lease or rent for the season, those kinds of expenses will be gone because we'll have that facility right there. It'll also give us a chance to, I think, that and the roof are kind of, in a way, connected in the sense that it helps to make us a more attractive venue for some of the performing groups that come in. And so if you were there Sunday night, you would have seen 3 or 4 huge buses that they travel in. And then there are 3 or 4 huge trailers that we have to put in
Ticket
place
booth plus
to
4 or
take
5
care of
behind.
everybody. And if we didn't have to do that,
Right.
it would just be a much more palatable facility for the performers.
On
So
that
that's it.
note, thank you. On that note, our
May I
time
add
is
one
up.
thing?
Oh, yeah, quick. Our
The
time
other
is up.
lifeblood, besides volunteers, is sponsors. For September Fest and the season, without the sponsors, we'd be in deep trouble. And they add so much for September Fest and all this other venue because it helps support it. So
Well, we'll have to do this again next year. We'll have to have this conversation. Thanks to everyone here at SCTV Behind the Scenes for getting the show on the air. Thanks especially to my guests, Bob Hensley, Dave Ryan, Ferg Jansen. Thank you for joining me. It's been a great pleasure to learn all about PAC. And finally, thank you for joining us. If you missed any portion of the show, you can always find it on our website at simsburytv.org. I'm Dominique Avery. See you next time for the Talk of Simsbury.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.